Hey, what's going on? Mr. Simonini here. I hope everything's going okay so far. This video is all about finding the vertex in factored form, which is our last form that we have to do this week in order to find the vertex. And again, factor form is something that looks like a binomial, a linear binomial times a linear binomial. So let's go ahead and dive in deep into this to figure out how can we find the vertex of that. So if you look here, again, remember, pause the video if you need to, boom, catch up real quick, read everything through to understand exactly where this is going. So I actually already graphed it in decimals.com. Understand when we go back to school, if we go back to school, when you get tested on this, you cannot be using this to easily find the vertex. So you have to be able to do it by hand. So if you look here, we have to be able to, when it's in factored form, we have to be able to find the x-intercepts. So it says we need to find the x-intercepts in order to find the vertex. So in order to find the vertex, we have to find the x-intercepts. So if we talk about the x-intercepts, remember, y is 0. So if you look here, what you need to do, the idea is you let y be 0, and then we're able to find the x-intercepts. Now, in order to find the x-intercepts of this, we have to understand a property that exists out there in algebra. And I'm going to come down here now. What it's called the zero product property. So let's say you have A times B. Now I'll put parentheses around it. You don't need parentheses, but we have parentheses around our stuff. So you have A times B equals 0. Then you know exactly what A or B is. One of them has to be 0. So if this is true, then A is 0 or B is 0. So for example, let's say I have 3 times B equals 0. Well, that must mean that B is 0. Like, that can be like the only number B can be in that case. Or again, if let's say you have 5, let's do A times 5 equals 0. Well, in that case, A must be 0. And again, so there's just some random numbers I'm coming up with. So it's really important to understand that if you have two things being multiplied and they equal 0, then one of the numbers have to be 0, or one of the expressions. So if you look up here, if this is happening, understand that this part right here has to be 0, or this has to be 0. So, x plus 9 or x minus 3 has to be 0. So that's where this comes into play. So that must mean that x plus 9 equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0. And as you can see here, they become two equations that you can solve really easily if you want to solve it for x. You subtract 9, so this would be x equals 9. So my x-intercept, one of my x-intercepts is going to be 9 comma 0 if I write it as an ordered pair. And then you add 3 here, you add 3 here, and you get your other x-intercept, which is going to be x equals 3. So my other x-intercept would be 3 comma 0. Now, something that if you look at the graph that's consistent with what we have, if you look there, that is negative 9 comma 0. If you look there, this is going to be 3 comma 0 right there. So really important to understand that. Now, something that people do, hopefully you noticed it, this is it's a shortcut whenever your coefficient, whenever your number in front of x is 1. If there's a different number there, what you do is kind of the opposite of sliding and dividing. You kind of put that number underneath, and you always just do the opposite. But then, since it's just 1 in front of x, and you really only have to worry about 1 being in front of x for now, it's always just going to be your x-intercepts are the opposite of the numbers that are showing in the parentheses. So we had positive 9 here, so negative 9 was my x-intercept. Negative 3, so 3 was my x-intercept. So it's pretty straightforward. I know I'm going a little extra here with it, but I'm just trying to explain why why it's opposite. All right, so again, my x-intercepts are negative 9 comma 0 and 3 comma 0. Now, something that is true about parabola is symmetric. And understand when you have your vertex, which is down here, your vertex, remember, there's an axis of symmetry. Now, the axis of symmetry splits this parabola in half. So I'm going to come all the way up here. The axis of symmetry is this line that splits this in half. Now, when we think about the x of the vertex is right there, which is, and there's not just a coincidence here, it's exactly in the middle of your x-intercepts. If you look here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 boxes there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 boxes there. It's right in the middle of those two x-intercepts. And again, this is just the x of the vertex. Okay, the x of the vertex, which is -3 in this case. So something that is, if you're finding the x of the vertex of something in factored form, what it is going to be the average, or you finding the middle of your x-intercept. So in order to find the average of two numbers, what you do is you find both x-intercepts, and then you always divide it by 2. So yes, there's always a 2. So in this case, in my example, in this problem, we got -9 plus 3, and then we're going to be dividing that by 2. Now, if you want to go to decimals.com to plug that in your calculator, you can, but that'd be -6 divided by 2, which is going to be -3. So my x of my vertex is going to be -3. Now, once you get your x of your vertex, is very similar to yesterday's lesson. You just plug it back into the equation. So if you look up here, this is my equation. There's 2 spots where I'm plugging into x. I'm plugging -3 into x, and then you can find the y of the vertex by plugging in the x of the vertex. So I'm going to come down here. So my y of the vertex is going to be y equals -3 plus 9, parenthesis, -3, and then it'd be -3. Now again, if you want to put this in your decimals calculator, you can. Here, I'll just do it one more time with you. So I'm going to come here. Again, you go to decimals.com. I'm at my graphing calculator right now. Go to scientific, and I have -3 plus 9, and then -3 minus 3. And my answer there will be -36, which is consistent with this graph that I have shown here. So my y of the vertex will be -36. So again, you have to be able to know how to do that by hand, just like that. Now again, I wrote a lot here. There's a lot going on here, but again, just to fully understand what's going on, you can hopefully get the reason why we have to do certain stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more examples finding the vertex. So here we go. So what you do, let's say we have to find the vertex of this. So it's very straightforward. You find the x-intercepts, which is just the opposite of these numbers. So it'll be -4 and 10. You do the opposites. And then find the x of the vertex. You add those numbers. So -4 plus 10. And then you divide it by 2. So in this case, it's going to be 6 divided by 2, which is going to be 3. So -4 plus 10 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Again, if you want to plug your own calculator, you can. And then you plug this into your x's to figure out the y of the vertex. So the y of the vertex here. Don't forget your negative that's in front, so be careful. It'll be negative, parenthesis, 3 plus 4. Close it, parenthesis, 3 minus 10, and then close it. Come over here now. So I'm going to clear out what I have. So negative, don't forget the negative, 3 plus 4. Close it, and then it'd be, don't want that 1 there. 3, and then it'd be minus 10. Minus 10. And you get an answer of 49. So my vertex here will be 3, 49. And then one last example, something that's really important to understand. This is actually a rule. So if you want to look at this, see how the x is outside of the parenthesis. Now, you have 5x equals 0 or x minus 7 equals 0. So you get x equals 7 for your x-intercept. And then in this case, if you think about it, you actually have the divide here, and 0 divided by 5 is 0. Basically, whenever there's an x outside of the parentheses, 0 is going to be one of your x-intercepts. So when we do this one, again, you do the x of the vertex. You add those answers up, your x-intercepts. So it'd be 0 plus 7 divided by 2. Again, if you need to put that in your calculator, you can. I'll do this one because this one's going to be a decimal. So again, you hit A over B, this button right here to get your fraction. I hit it too many times. So it'd be 0 plus 7 divided by 2. And when it's decimals, keep it decimals. You don't need fractions. So I'm just going to say 3.5. Again, I want the whole decimal. And then what you're doing now is you plug this into the x to get your y. And then this be, so the y of vertex is going to equal 5 times 3.5 times 3.5 minus 7. Again, that's something you can plug in your calculator now. So I'll come here. 5 times 3.5 times, come back here, 3.5 minus 7. And you get an answer of negative 61.25. So this would be negative 61.25. So my answer is going to be my vertex. Here we go. Please open up. So my vertex in this problem will be 3.5 comma negative 61.25. Sorry this was a longer video, but this is one of the more longer ones that I had to explain what to do. So again, please make sure you do the homework. Again, what you need to do is you just do the opposite of what's inside. Add those two numbers up, divide it by 2, you get your x over your vertex, and you just plug it in. Just remember, whenever there's an x outside of the parenthesis, then 0 is one of your x-intercepts. So in that case, it'd be 0 and 7. All right, thank you.